Udio, it's the latest text-to-music generative AI model that has taken over the entire internet, and it's blowing us away with its ridiculous capabilities to produce finished pieces of music within minutes. But the question I have, and probably you watching this video, is how exactly did Udio's model get so good so fast? I mean, there's plenty of other generative AI models out there on the marketplace, and they're not nearly as impressive or scary as what Udio is able to achieve. It's obvious that they built some sort of very impressive technology here, of course, but the question is, how much of the quality of Udio's output is due to the data that it was trained on, meaning the music that it actually fed into its AI model? Well, it's really hard to say because Udio has not been transparent about what music they've used in their model, how they've sourced it, if they've licensed it. And I've looked up and down through their entire website. I can't find anything that indicates what they're doing behind the scenes. And by now, you've probably heard some Udio songs that have been generated that sound suspiciously very similar to a lot of the artists and bands that we all know and love. And since there's very little transparency here, many of us are left wondering, is it possible that Udio has been training its model off of copyright-protected music? And if that is the case, have they paid for that music? Have they gone and asked for consent from the copyright owners of the music they've trained their data on, if this is what they're doing? Well, what you're going to see in this video is what I believe might be an indication that there is copyright-protected sound recordings and musical compositions within Udio's data set. Just before I show you these really interesting examples, I want to make two things very clear. Number one, it's not clear right now legally whether a company like Udio would have to go get consent from copyright owners to train its model off of their music. That is something that we're still waiting for the courts to weigh and decide, and we'll get into those specifics at the end of this video. And number two, this video is 100% my opinion. I'm not making any definite claims as to what is really going on at Udio and how they are securing their data and what kinds of licensing deals, if any, are in place there. But you can watch this video and you decide for yourself what you think is going on. And please, after this video, comment below. I'd like to get your opinion. So here we are at Udio's website. If you've been here, you've already seen how it works. You basically just prompt in anything you want, and within a minute or two fully completed pieces of music pop out of it with lyrics and vocals and everything. So again, extremely impressive, but we've got a lot of questions. If you try to prompt Udio's model with an actual artist's name, a specific name, it'll give you actually an error, and I'm going to show you guys what it does. So in this example, I'm going to type in Eminem, Without Me, hip hop, angry, funny, bouncing bass line. How many of you guys know what I'm going for here? So let's generate two tracks and let's see what Udio says when I try to have it spit out an Eminem sound-alike track. So right here, before the tracks are even done, it says artist replaced. We do not generate artist likeness without permission. So they're claiming that they have a little filtration system to say, hey, you asked for a specific likeness, a specific artist, and we don't believe that we should be creating an exact sound-alike of that artist. So they have some sort of filter system that prevents you from doing that. So after the songs have been generated, it has that same warning right there. Artist has been replaced. We do not generate artist likeness without permission. So they basically just took out the word Eminem and they replaced it with all the other tags that I put in there. So let's take a listen to what it generated. And as you'll hear, probably, I haven't heard these yet, it's probably not going to sound like Eminem's voice.
Look at them jumping, they got that bass face. Tripping over lines like it's a shoelace. I come around and it's a freak show. Case, life's a circus without me, a freaking blank space.
Nope, doesn't sound like Eminem.
Guess who's back? Back again. Yeah, laugh tracks to my own jokes, man. Spit it out with a grin, it's a win in the kitchen.
Okay, doesn't sound like Eminem's voice, but did you notice those first two lyrics? Guess who's back? Back again? Those are two lyrics that belong to the song Without Me by Eminem. So these are these little interesting things that keep popping up through Udio's website that has a lot of us scratching our heads and wondering what's going on here. And that's what we're going to dive into in this video. So a couple of weeks ago, I had a subscriber reach out to me who reported that they figured out a pretty clever way to prompt Udio. Just use their basic prompting tool to generate the music you're going to hear right now. And I'm going to click play on just the first one. You tell me if this sounds familiar.
I don't want a lot for Christmas. There is just one thing I need. I don't care about the presents underneath the Christmas tree. I just want you for my own, more than you could ever know. Make my wish come true. All I want for Christmas is you.
Sounds really familiar, doesn't it? It's almost like I've heard that exact song note for note, lyric for lyric, chord for chord. Pretty interesting, but that's not where it ended. There were actually more tracks it was able to generate. Check out these ones.
I don't want a lot for Christmas. There is just one thing I need. I don't care about the presents underneath the Christmas tree.
At least they put a male vocalist. It's a little different, right?
I don't want a lot for Christmas. There is just one thing I need. I don't care about the presents underneath the Christmas tree.
Some melodic variation there.
I don't want a lot for Christmas. There is just one thing I need. I don't care about the presents underneath the Christmas tree. I don't want a lot for Christmas. There is just one thing I need.
I don't want a lot for Christmas. There is just one thing I need.
I don't want a lot for Christmas. There is just
All right.
one thing I need.
So the point stands. To me, that sounds a lot like Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You, which was recorded in 1994. It's not a public domain song. It is a song that is copyright protected. So was this track trained on by Udio? And if it was it licensed? Did they go pay the people who are holding on to the copyright ownership of this song? Just questions, Udio. Just a lot of questions. And it didn't stop there. Here's another song that many of us have grown up on. See if you can detect what this sounds like.
Last Christmas, I gave you my heart, but the very next day, you gave it away. This year, to save me from tears, I'll give it to someone special.
And this kind of happened over and over again.
Last Christmas I gave you my heart, but the very next day you gave it away. This year, to save me from tears, I'll give it to someone special.
Kind of sounds like if the mama and papas did that one.
Last Christmas, I gave you my heart, but the very next day, you gave it away. Last Christmas, I gave you my heart, but the very next day, you gave it away. Last Christmas, I gave you my heart, but the very next day, you gave it away.
You can kind of see that, the chord progressions, the melodies, the notes, the phrasing. It's all kind of sounding very similar, and all of these sound very similar to Wham's Last Christmas tune, which is, again, not a public domain, copyright-free piece of music. It is copyright protected. So what's happening here? How is Udio able to generate these tracks? All right, let's keep playing this fun game. See if you recognize what this song sounds like.
Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad y próspero año y felicidad. Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad y próspero año y felicidad.
All right, well, it sounds like kinda Feliz Navidad by Jose Feliciano that was recorded in 1970, but phrasing's a little bit different, so I'm sure it just kind of created its own variation on that. Let's see what the next one was sounding like.
Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, próspero
never mind. And that wasn't the end of the story. There were actually tons more of tracks that Udio's model was generating that sounded suspiciously a lot like many copyright protected songs that we all love and know. I just wanted to highlight a couple of them on this video. But now let's move on to the Beatles, as in the music copyright owners of the last 100 years. You can't just go take their music. You can't just go license their music for free. If you want to use the Beatles music in anything, especially in the TV film sync licensing world, boy, are you going to pay. Now, remember that warning we got before when we tried to generate the Eminem song? It says, we do not generate artist likeness without permission. With that in mind, let's take a listen to this. Now, because Udio has shown that they will delete songs, we wanted to make sure that didn't happen with these tracks that were generated. So this is now on a private SoundCloud playlist. The subscriber made sure to protect them that way to make sure that they didn't get deleted. So let's take a listen just to a couple of tracks, again, through some very clever prompting that the subscriber figured out. And you let me know who this sounds like.
Your name's in the song, in the tune we sang. All the fans around you know your fame will never end, but you play it cool as the legends you are. Oh, come on, come on. Come on to the stage where you always shine. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that to me sounds a lot like John Lennon. Is that using his likeness with Udio's model? Just a question. You be the judge. Let's go into another track.
Simple tunes, soft tunes, they hum and play, they light your way. Music like a guiding hand. Just feel the song, oh, let it move, let it stand, oh, carry the tune in your heart if you can.
And yeah, that does sound a lot like Paul McCartney. In fact, if you were to use either Paul McCartney or John Lennon's voice in a TV commercial or any sort of an ad spot, you would be paying a lot of money because their voices are very, very valuable. In fact, you can maybe argue that they have the most valuable singing voices on planet Earth. Did Udio go out and license and pay to use the likeness of what appears to be John Lennon and Paul McCartney? Again, we don't know. We have no insights as to what's happening behind the scenes. And maybe if they didn't do those things, they're going to be betting that they can get away with a fair use defense for training off of their data, if that's what happened. But we'll get into those specifics in just a minute. But right now, listen to this. I think this is a really interesting thing that this subscriber found.
Maybe drive your truck. Beep, 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 beep. Oh,
Play that one more time. Listen to those.
your truck. Beep, 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 beep. Oh,
Now listen to this.
beep, 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 yeah.
Now let me slow that down to 0.75. Take a listen.
Beep, 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 beep. Beep, 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 beep. Beep, 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 beep. Beep, 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 beep. Beep, 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 beep.
So I have to wonder, did Udio go out and pay to use the likeness of John Lennon and Paul McCartney and the Beatles? And if they didn't, are they just betting that using a fair use defense is going to keep them clear of potential problems legally down the road? We don't know yet. We're still waiting for the courts to help make some rulings and get some clarity for all of us. And by the way, if you want to be kept up to date with the latest developments in the AI music and legal challenges for all of this, click on that little subscribe button right down below me, because this is going to be a channel that will keep you up to date and informed on all the latest developments in the AI music space for how we, human music creators, producers, composers, artists, bands, can ensure that we get a piece of the upside of this generative, new, exciting technology. So after all this is leaving me with 3 giant questions that I really want to get the answer to. Number 1, is Udio training its model with copyright protected music and not paying for it? We're still waiting for an answer from the Udio team on this one. And if they are doing this, is Udio storing musical compositions in its data set? As you just heard, the Christmas songs sounds like there are some form of musical compositions stored in the data. It was able to recreate lyric for lyric, note for note, and chord for chord reproductions of copyright protected songs. And with the Beatles examples, does that demonstrate that there are actually some physical sound recordings stored somewhere in the data set that can be retrieved? And if none of these things are happening, how is it that Udio's model is able to produce the things that we showed in this video? Because what we've heard from most generative AI companies is that they're not storing any data in their AI models. But if the output sounds like what you heard in this video, is this just a difference without a distinction? Because really what matters is if these models can reproduce copyright protected works. Chances are somebody at Udio will probably see this video and try to quickly fix this bug and patch it up so that this is not possible anymore. But I'm going to keep this video up publicly, at least for as long as I think I can, because I think it's important for you all to hear what's happening and at least what we discovered as a result of this process. Because I've seen in other videos talking about Udio that when there is output created from their model that potentially steps on copyright infringement grounds, Udio has this nasty habit of deleting songs and even entire playlists. So to me, that indicates they know there's a problem here. So if Udio hasn't licensed the music that they've trained their model on, are they going to get away with this fair use defense? Will that fly with the courts? It remains to be seen, but let's dive into the weeds on that, and I'll give you my opinion and my reasoning as to why I don't believe that's going to fly legally. So the fair use doctrine, which was enacted in 1976 with the US copyright law, basically states that there are some areas of wiggle room for people to be able to use copyrighted music to create transformative works, derivative works, parodies, right? All these different sort of variations on copyright works where we don't need to go get consent or pay the copyright owners to do what we're going to be doing. Generative AI companies are going to be making this exact case. They're going to say, hey, this is what human beings have been doing since forever, listening to copyrighted music, getting trained on copyrighted music, and then creating derivative works that are not stepping directly on the toes of that copyrighted work. But as long as it's its own thing, it's unique, it's coming from a place that is not feeling like it's so close to plagiarizing, fair game, that's fair use. So isn't it the same thing? Well, here's where I think things are a little bit different with these two scenarios. In the fair use doctrine, there are 4 elements that a court would weigh to decide whether or not a use of copyrighted music is fair game or copyright infringement. And the 4th element I think is key here. It states that if in the copying of copyrighted music or using copyrighted music to create a for-profit product or service, if all of that activity devalues the work, basically undermines the value of the copyrighted music that your AI model was trained on, then you have a pretty convincing case that it is not fair use and it is potentially copyright infringement. So in our world, TV film sync licensing, let's imagine a scenario where a company like Udio takes their model and trains it off of some massive production music library catalog like Universal's, which is, I think, over 1 million tracks. They don't ask for permission. They don't ask for consent. They bet they're going to get away with a fair use clause. They train their model. They take that 1 million+ tracks and they create a very impressive, amazing production music library track generator, which anybody can use to prompt something and generate basically unlimited tracks all day long. And then let's say that hypothetical AI company approaches somebody in the TV film licensing business, a cable company, a reality TV show production company, a network, and they say, come hire us. We're only $30 a month. And you can prompt anything you want. There are no copyrights. There are no royalties, no sync fees. We are going to save you all the time and energy of licensing your music. And we're going to be way cheaper and easier to work with than all these human creators you've been having all these headaches with all these years. To me, that looks like a very clear case of somebody using copyrighted data to train an AI model to then go undercut the interests and the value of those copyright owners. And this isn't hypothetical stuff. If you haven't followed recently, Red Lobster was the first to break ground by using generative AI music to release a mixtape to promote some new menu items that they want to put on their menu. Now, coincidentally, Red Lobster may be filing for bankruptcy. But regardless, this is definitely a case where I can see, we don't know if it's Udio, Suno, some other AI company that might have helped Red Lobster generate these tracks. But this is a clear case where they use this technology to replace human creators. Because what would Red Lobster have to have done if they didn't have a text-to-music generative AI model that might have been trained on unlicensed copyright music? Well, you have to go out and pay a lot of human beings, publishers, songwriters, producers, vocalists, recording studios. It's not cheap to license as much music as they did and put it out in a national campaign. Regardless of what happens with the courts, I like to, in my mind, sort of play out the worst case scenario and then plan for that and hope it doesn't happen. But if it does, I want to make sure that there is a bright future for all of us, regardless of how this plays out. So let's do that together, shall we? Let's just say that the courts side with generative AI companies and they say, have at it, Haas. It's all fair game, no licensing, no consent. If it's publicly available and you can put your web crawler on it, train off of it, make a for-profit company and have at it. Well, of course, what are we going to see when that happens? Thousands, tens of thousands of these AI companies popping up, trying to take over every little nook and cranny of the music industry, crowding out Spotify, crowding out production music, crowding out stock music, you name it. If there's music and there's a need for music, these AI companies are going to try to take up everything they possibly can. So what do we do with that? Well, if you've been following this technology as closely as I have, you might have noticed that AI generative models are really good at rehashing and transforming yesterday's music. So the music that's in their model, it does a great job of remaking it and changing the lyrics and changing the notes, but it always sounds like music you kind of heard before. There's nothing that feels like it's futuristic or cutting edge or breaking new boundaries. And I think that's where the need for human creators, human producers, musicians, composers, and artists is really going to play out here. I think our job in the near future is to break free maybe some of the chains that we've been holding ourselves back with, maybe trying to sound a little too much like each other. I mean, let's be honest, go look at the trending songs right now on the pop charts. It's a lot of sound alikes. There's a few handful of producers making a lot of it, and the rest of us tend to be kind of following in their footsteps and making music that sounds kind of like what we've already heard before. Maybe this is an opportunity for us to go back to an era of more bold creativity. I think of the 60s. I think of the 90s. I think of these eras where music was kind of weird. It was kind of interesting. It was saying something. It was going into these kind of new boundaryless areas and pushing the bounds of what we thought we could do with music and what kind of an impact we could make with the songs and the compositions that we had. So that's, I really think, what our job is going to be if we want to remain relevant in this new era of AI generative music. We have to become the vanguard. We have to be the sort of tip of the arrow that's piercing through into the future, creating new kinds of music, new kinds of experiences, more vulnerable, more honest, more raw and visceral types of music that start to become more human, for lack of a better word. That's really going to, I think, open up a floodgate of amazing creativity that we might have never seen before in previous eras. Not to mention, you pile all that up on top of new types of technology, virtual reality, augmented reality, where we could combine our creative works with these new technologies, probably using AI as well, and we could be delivering new, personalized, customized experiences for our fans and audiences with our music. And even in that worst case scenario that I described, I still want to make music. It doesn't matter what AI is doing. I still have a need and a desire to express myself creatively and musically. And I'm sure if you're watching this video, some part of you feels the exact same way. So I have no doubt that there will be new ways and methods for human beings to connect with each other through music. Absolutely no doubt there is going to be a future for us. Where that future exactly is, where these communities will pop up, what are the new and potential ways we could monetize our music? Sorry, don't have the answers for that. Don't have a crystal ball. But my eyes are open to those possibilities and to those opportunities. So again, on this channel, I will definitely be keeping you guys updated on where I see our bright future and where those new opportunities may arise when they pop up. But regardless of where the future brings us, I'm going to leave you with one easy, fast reframe mentally. It's just a mental trick that has actually personally helped me a lot because I have struggled and stressed out about generative AI music quite a bit in the last year. And this one simple reframe has completely reduced almost all of my anxiety and depressing thoughts about our future and where I think we could go. So I want to share this with you, and I think it can make a difference for you if you've been struggling as well. When we all go through difficult situations in our lives, what is the one thing that we all say to ourselves? I'm the first to say it. Why is this happening to me, right? We whine, we complain, we throw ourselves a pity party because when we don't initiate change in our lives and it's uncomfortable change, that is very, very difficult. It's very, very tough. So we all throw a tantrum and we say, why is this happening to me? I want you just to try this out. Flip around that one word to for. Why is this happening for me? Very simple. It's very illogical. It's very irrational, but it works. At least it's worked for me. I'm curious. If you try it, comment below and let me know if that takes down a little bit of the anxiety, a little bit of the depression on this, even just a notch or two. Because here's what I really believe. When we are put through very uncomfortable situations in our lives, we lose a job, we lose a friend, we lose a loved one, a relationship, anything, we usually feel like it's the end of the world while we're going through it because we don't see a bright future ahead. We can't put our finger on exactly where our hopeful future will be. And that's where we are right now in the middle of it. But look back in your life. Was that lost job really the end of your life? Was that lost relationship really the end of your love life altogether? Was the loss of a loved one meaning that you could never find joy and love again? No. These are all difficult situations which are for us. They are gifts that are given to us to allow us to grow. I choose to have that point of view. I don't think you could say it's objectively true or false, but this is a conscious choice that I'm making, that I believe AI is here for us. At least that's how I'm going to perceive it. That's how I'm going to harness it. That's how I'm going to embrace it. And even if I'm uncomfortable from time to time, which I certainly have been, I am already realizing that with this one simple, quick reframe, I am becoming more excited about creating my own original music. I am feeling like I am more ambitious and more brave with my own creative endeavors. So I am personally seeing a lot of benefit with this simple reframe. So I encourage you to give it a shot. And now it's your turn. I've been spouting off at the mouth for the last 20 minutes or so. I'd love to hear, what do you think? What do you think about what we played? What do you think about my perspective of us moving into the future? And if you're brand new to the channel, welcome. My name is Jesse. Maybe I should have told you at the very beginning, but this is a channel really dedicated to the TV film sync licensing marketplace. So if you subscribe, you're going to learn a lot about that side of the business, best practices, how to really stay out of trouble. But of course, generative AI music is a potential threat for us. So that's why I'm dedicating a lot of my upcoming videos to this very topic. So you're going to get a double whammy if you subscribe. So I'd like to welcome you to the channel, and please introduce yourself down below.